we got things more important, our faith and the ability to go on and the knowledge that we were right and they were wrong. And we were someday all those things were going to happen, and absolutely certainty in that regard. Because we knew someone was listening. And when we finally were released and came home, every single one of those things that we had prayed for came true.
So, I mean...
Just not on our schedule, but yes.
Well, as often that is.
Yeah. With the amount of time that you were in captivity, I imagine faith was probably about the only thing that could help get you through that, because you would have ups and downs.
Yes, there were no atheists when you were at the extreme end of your consciousness and ability to think.
How do you mentally prepare when you know, communicating with the other prisoners, that they're going to be coming for you asking certain questions? How do you mentally prepare yourself, knowing that sometimes you had alluded to it could be a week that you would be mistreated and tortured?
Yeah, we took it stoically. We didn't let it get to us. As a matter of fact, we developed a great bit of stoicism. I'll give you an example. When we were finally released, and we knew that our release was imminent because the North Vietnamese had lived up to their promise at the peace talks to inform us, and they did so in English, and they let us out of our cells to read what was going to happen, and that we were going to be released, the sick, the infirm, and then by order shoot down. And we didn't know the date, but it was going to be soon, within a week or so. And we, of course, were joyous. And the day before we were released, the night before, they gave out these nice little uniforms so we would look good when we got off the plane. And so we wore those, and they gave us a little satchel, and I was able to come out with my tin cup and a few little things, my shoes, rubber pants, sandals, and I think one set of my old prison garb, pajamas and stuff. Not much, but we got on the buses, small buses that would hold maybe 40 people or so. And as we drove away from the bus, the first time we'd ever been in a vehicle in North Vietnam that we weren't blindfolded. And we went out pretty quietly. We weren't overjoyed, jumping up and down. When we got out of those buses, we lined up by height and twos, and the senior person standing giving a say, left, right, over, right. Because we knew that really made the North Vietnamese angry. We did it, and we marched. We didn't smile, laugh, yell, or anything. We were in a military formation, and we marched everywhere we went, including out to the table where we were finally to go up, and there was a senior ranking Air Force officer and a senior English-speaking Vietnamese and some of the guards that spoke English. And we were finally released and met an Air Force guide or escort officer, I'll call him, escorted each of us out to the airplane. And we got on it, and we still didn't smile. They could have turned us around and marched us back to the buses. And when we got back to wherever they took us, we wouldn't have smiled. We were that stoic and that hardened that nothing could make us show emotion or thanks to our captors or let them know that we forgave them in any way. And I think the first big whoop that we let out on the airplane, incidentally, they had 3 or 4 beautiful nurses on board in uniform. And late magazines and whatnot. And but anyway, the first big whoop that we had was when we felt the wheels come up. And then after, it didn't take long before we were over water. We broke, and that's when we really let it out again and yelled, because we were for sure out of there when we were out over the water. And landed at Travis Air Force Base. But I just wanted to give you an example of our feelings and emotions. We didn't let feelings or emotion affect us. We were going to do everything we could to be as military as we could be.
When you got the news or the opportunity to read about the peace agreement and to be able to leave Vietnam, when did you believe it to be true and not to be a propaganda message or a march that they would use against you or something?
We just waited it out. If it happened, it happened. If it didn't happen, it didn't change us one bit.
And so you talked also about the optimists in the camp had done very well, the pessimists
We
not
were
as much.
always, most of us were optimistic. A few weren't, and they didn't do as well. Physically, mentally, emotionally, resistance, rehabilitating themselves or whatever. They just didn't do as well as the people who were optimists. And that came out of the studies at Pensacola Naval Air Station. I mean, they, talked to all of us who were part of the program, and the ones that they thought did the best psychologically and mentally were those who were optimists. As it turned out, I may have told you this, that in comparing the control group with the POWs, the biggest measurable difference that they found was physically was our bone structure was not as dense. No big deal. But it was a fact, physical fact. They compared everything, your kidney function and heart function and any problems that develop in any group, and compared it, everything. And especially in the early years of the program down there, every time we went down, we'd see a psychiatrist, and we'd see a psychologist, and the psychologist would give us mental tests, memory tests and things, to see how alert we were. And as it turns out, the POWs were a little better mentally and emotionally than the control group.
Wow.
And they thought it would be just the other way around.
Yeah.